I will. It's good. It's good to do. Like I would ideally like to get this into a little bit more crisp of format, so it's not so esoteric
Sure.
or
It's nice
not
to have you
family
talking about what you're doing, though. Thank you.
focused. But until I get something better, it'll be good to have some reference as opposed to no reference. Where is my control plus networking? Trying to add my increase the size of my font, and I thought it was just control plus, but it's shifts control, maybe Windows plus. No. So is it doing equals shift control plus maybe? Ah, there we go. Shift control plus. So I'll make that a little bit bigger, but make the window a little smaller to make sure this is visible. So I just opened a different terminal, but to the same directory here, just to try to make this a little more visible. Maybe make that one level larger, control shift plus. And okay, hopefully the text is a little, so now if we look at this folder, we can see I already have the docs folder here from the last time I built this page. And since I'm going to be doing a new build, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out the existing HTML. And remember, this is all on my local system, right? So nothing I do here has any impact on what is running on the live website until I push it up from my local system. So I'm just working on my local copy. So now if I look in my local docs folder, you can see I've got like all my index HTML and different stuff that feeds the HTML view of the site. And so I'm going to go ahead and just do a little sudo rm-r star from this directory to clear it out. And actually, what I usually do there, and I don't think it matters either way, but I usually do is I just delete the entire docs directory. So I'll just do that. Now if we go ls, we can see there's no longer a docs directory. And this isn't strictly, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next part. So I'll go ahead and just type the command Hugo in here, and that'll take all those markdown files and the templates and build them all together and build the latest, a new fresh copy of all the HTML content with those new changes that we made in it. So this it takes a second to do there. And now if I go ls, I can see that I have a whole new docs directory regenerated for me. And now if I push that back up, should do the check and make that live. So first thing, I'm just going to go ahead and do the git add from my root directory here, and just the dot indicates add everything that is in this directory and get smart enough to know just what's changed. So it'll identify what has changed and put that in queue for an update. And then the next thing I have to do before I am able to transfer the files back up to GitHub is I need to add a comment. So let's say git, where is it? I'm forgetting I was right, git commit. And I'm just going to say here, updating, edit. Okay. And let's see, updating. So we can go ahead and see here that it says that we see a bunch of deletions because we deleted things, and we also inserted things after we deleted them. And so we'll just go ahead and we can see here that it even calls out that meta links page that we made, we added. And so that should hopefully capture all the changes. I think usually gets it right. And so now I can go ahead and do a git push. And in this case, since I'm a owner on this, I can push directly to the site, which is not always the best practice, but at times during hackathons and when you're first getting new content up and since that changes, it's convenient to be able to do that. So I'll go ahead and push it. Okay, so that should now, if we go back to the GitHub page here, where was I? Before I'll give that a minute to converge. But I just want to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and look and see in that config.toml file to see if that change is visible. So that was, just scroll down here and I can see the value we didn't have before is we didn't have that GitHub branch value exposed. I also made another change too, but this kind of tells me that it captured the changes. And so now if I go back to the ModernApps ninja.github.io, and then it's the vSphere with Tanzu. Oh, no. Where's the appropriate link? I may just have to type it in here. Let's see. There we go. Once I started typing, it found it. And so now let's give it a try to make sure it works. We'll go ahead and go into the course and click on the edit this page. And boom, there we go. So now it is appropriately bring us directly to the edit page for this particular page. And as you can see, there's not really any content to edit on that page. This is more of a page. I think I do want to beautify this page a little bit here, but I can worry about that later. I don't think it once. Well, my intent with this is one thing I was working on earlier that I didn't get quite finished because there's some other customizations that exist in this page I got to figure out. But in the template, I want to have it so where every page has that forward and next. And so right now I have a link just manually kind of typed in there to say click to proceed to the course on the main pages. But my intent is to delete that, and once I have the forward and backward buttons, then those will be automatically generated, and I think the page will look a little bit cleaner at that point. Right now the splash page is a little ugly. And we can also choose, like on this splash page, to add more introductory content, but I don't intend to have a lot there because again I think the typical flow for coming to this course will be coming to the home page, seeing then there's about me page, and then from the home page on the about me page, then you link here. And so by the time you get here, I think you're ready to just, oops, that's still the local host. I turned off the local server. By the time you get here, you're ready to just dig in. And I'm still on the local host version. Here's the right one. They look identical. So here we go. Now I'm on the appropriate version. Dig in and can just quickly get into the sections. Okay, so now we have the edit this page taken care of. And so I'm thinking now there's several things. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the updates that I'm trying to make in the nearest term. One of which is I need to get that action script on here for GitHub Actions to such that when someone submits an update, not when they submit the update per se, but once that update is approved, that build process we went through just happens automatically. Want to do that in a serial fashion rather than a parallel fashion to make sure that things get processed in queue, and then nobody should be needing to manually do a build once somebody makes an edit. Go into queue, and as soon as someone with the appropriate permission says, yes, we approve that change, we're going to go ahead and merge it, that merge will automatically trigger the job to redo that build process to get that content refreshed on the HTML version of the site. And so I'll be looking at the GitHub Actions probably here. So that's a hot button. Another hot button is getting the quiz stuff in here. And I've been thinking about different ways to do quizzes, and there's complexities to each of them. What I ideally want to do, though, is do a quiz submission process that is done by doing a git commit, maybe linking to one of those pages. And the downside to that is when you do it through a nice web form, some people prefer the web form user experience. My feeling is I want to be a little pushy with if you want to get a certificate of completion. I don't want to make it difficult. Having for this level of course, some things that people can simply do through that little web-based editor. What I feel is we have the content here for people who want to go through the content and use it for their own benefit. They don't need to participate at a deeper level. But when it comes to what sets us apart from more traditional program, and we need to be set apart from a traditional program because VMware has several different traditional programs. We have our big VMware certified professional, then we have VMware technical solutions professional for partners, and then we have things like VMware Learning Zone, and we have Cube Academy and things like that. And so what is different about what we're doing, and why should we exist? And I think that the really thing that I want to really stand out as different is that community participation aspect. And likewise, when we think about what is the value of a credential, most of the credentials that exist in our industry, they're good credentials. A lot of them will say that I know how to answer a multiple choice question, and nothing really beyond that. And then other ones will have nice simulations in the test that you take that says, I know how to work in a demo, or not even necessarily simulation, maybe a full environment that someone could remotely connect to and actually execute a technical command. And so I think that is a good thing to have, and we'll hopefully have those at some point. But I think one thing that's unique is that ability to actually say, I know how to participate in a modern DevOps environment, to work in a version control system, to even things like we'll have things like opening and triaging issue tickets, creating new content, making edits, all the type of things that you would do. In this case, our content happens to be educational material, but this could be any type of software, infrastructure code, scripts, or what have you, knowing how to do things on GitHub. And the other side is that, when you go through a course and a lab guide, the material itself, and it doesn't matter which course or lab guide you go through, the material is not a production environment, right? You're working inside of some type of simulated environment, and that's going to be true of our courses and lab guides. But one of the things that I hope that can differentiate us when it comes to saying, hey, I got a credential or an achievement from this community, is that when you come in and you make a modification, even if it's changing this period, well, that is actually a production change, right? This is a production course. It is published live. It is something that VMware promotes. This is production content. And so when you make a change, it's going to come into a queue for approval. And if you approve it, you've done something that is making a production change to a bona fide, VMware project. And I think that's really unique, right? When you get a credential from, I think, anywhere else that's offering it some type of course credential, so it's, everything is completely in kind of this simulation world. Whereas where I hope to go with this is more and more that when you get a credential that comes from the Ninja community, you'll have done some modifications to and maybe for like the 101 level content, and maybe here's a question and answer, and the document that you'll submit may just be question 1 answer A, question 2 B, and you can submit that through GitHub, where a pipeline will check it and respond back with your result, whether you passed or not, and what have you. But at minimum level, you've done the same exact step that you would do if you're modifying the content, the production content itself, and it'll go the same way into a queue, get approval, and really take that same exact process. So you're learning how to do that particular process. And as we get to more and more content, I really intend to have steps in here to where when to get certain credentials and achievements in the community, you're going to actually triage real issue tickets and close real issue tickets and make real pull requests to the real production materials. And we also have a set of Kubernetes, while this web content itself is served from GitHub, we have different contents that support the lab environments that we are making available that run on Kubernetes and other environments. And so have the opportunity to do things in a real environment and to actually impact production while you're going through the coursework and while you're making achievements. And my hope there is I said, a lot of times this stuff is new and we go to a course and we learn about it. And some of us have production experience with doing things. But a lot of times you learn a new technology and in a course, and then you got to go put it to work for your job. And that's a scary thing. And I say something new, totally new technology, way we've done things in the past at our production, at my job, maybe have been totally different, and I've got to do something totally new. And I think my hope is that by giving people the opportunity in this educational context to actually do some of the production, the actual production tasks in the community in this way, that it really help with that, bridge that learning from the book learning into what I need to do, what a lot of people need to do for their job, whether you're going out and maybe if you work in a pre-sales environment, you're still going out and helping customers understand and change and improve their production environments. If you work in a post-sales environment, a production environment, then you're gonna have to take these skills that you learn from the books and bridge that into the real world, and hopefully the structure will help with that. And so yeah, the intent for how I plan to do how people will be able to take a test will be through looking at the questions and then having a text document with an answer key that they'll submit through a GitHub pull request, and then we'll initiate a pipeline that will diff it and return back a grade. So that is under work. So we'll see if I'm able to get to working on that more today. Another thing that I've been working on that's kind of similar is a new registration process. And so right now we have registration still being done. And what do we need to register for, right? So for just looking at the material, I don't intend to have any of this material behind any type of registration process. And so for people who want to come and peruse the material, there isn't any need to register. I want to make sure that people know that we have a community here and they can come and join and register with various things. But like right now we have a Google group and we have a Slack channel and we have a learning management system is still going to be up for a bit for until we get the content all transferred over. And then as you do things like in contributing, there are going to be a lot of things where you'll become a member of our GitHub organization to do. And so I don't want it to be to where people have got to go and register whenever they do those things in 9 different places. And I'd ideally like to have one centralized registration hub. And so working on the best method for that. There's a few methods I've identified, some, like doing something like a Google form is super easy to do. But at the same time, I'm not sure that aligns with, the longer, with the vision I have for the community and having things a little bit more GitHub oriented. And so we may end up using something like a Google form there. But I'm more like the idea of submitting a documents to the GitHub repo, and that will trigger an automation that will help to automatically register users with the different subsites, like you maybe automatically register with the email list or with the group, a Google group or what have you, and so and also at the same time automatically set up a new user to be part of our GitHub org for whenever they may need to do things that will require the GitHub org membership. Again, I think one of the most obvious one is when we do have the ability to take tests and get a certificate of completion on the GitHub site. I think to do that, I do intend that at that point, we'll want those users to GitHub accounts to be registered as members of the Modern Apps Ninja org. Okay, so so next thing's next. I'm trying to think about what I want to play with next right now. I'll pause again. It's just a reminder. I'm just kind of going through my own thing here right now and working on some additional functionality for the course and program. And so it is not The main intent of having the call open is to be open for open office hours. If anybody has any questions and what have you, you know, that to interrupt me at any time, and we'll definitely stop and focus on answering questions or having any discussions that anybody on the call wants to have. I'll just go ahead and do a little check-in here on this repo real quick. Make sure there's no questions waiting in queue. So we see our couple issue tickets and target audience page and course introduction page. So looks like A Bidlin, thanks A Bidlin for that. Target audience page, review the lab completion difficulty. I'm not certain what's it supposed to say. Yeah, some of the semantics I have in here, I definitely need to update. So that'll be a good one for me to keep open in the meantime. So issue tickets are a big part of not just our community, but really anytime, you know, any DevOps team, if you start to, the more the companies move towards infrastructure as code and DevOps type practices, more likely you're going to be working more and more with either GitHub or a system that's very similar to GitHub. And one of the great things about using GitHub is if you may in a job go to work to support an environment that's using GitLab or Team Foundation server or GOGS or bunches of other different version controlled systems, you know, they all are very, very similar. And so I think GitHub is being public and free to use and so on. It's a great tool, not just to say that, hey, people should use GitHub for various things. Generally in private environments, I mean, GitHub is an option to go with GitHub Enterprise, but there's lots of other options. And I think this is a great one because it's well, not everything is exactly the same. It's all very, very similar between all these different newer version control systems. And so when new issues come in, I mean, the first thing that will happen is a triage process. And the triage process primarily first involves labels. And right now we don't have this organized into projects and milestones yet. The ideal thing is that, you know, you're able to append labels that gives you in your central issue repository, you may have lots of different types of issues. You may have different groups of people who work on your project that focus on different things. And you might have different automations that run based on the type of ticket that's open. And so by labeling it, it's a great way to be able to categorize and filter it, make sure that people are coming to see if there's a particular type of problem or any automation that depends on a particular category, that those are clearly identified. And so the labels that I have, oh, in this one, I actually have just the default set of labels. I was meaning I have another ticket open on the main ModernApps Ninja repo. Where's the main repo? I'll just navigate over to the main repo here. Let's see. Apps Ninja, ModernAppsNinja.github.io. So I've been going to be re-centralizing all the different issues to point to these central hubs right now. They're still a little bit distributed, but one of the things I have here is tagging featured requests. Yeah, ability to add common labels to all repos in the org. So what I want to do is there's things like we have in this .github folder here that when you can put various different things, like in this case, I have issue templates. And so just with the way that GitHub default semantics work is in your organization, if you have a repository called .github, this is a place that you can define global settings. So that way, anytime anyone creates a new repo under Modern Apps Ninja, it will automatically absorb these global settings. And so, for example, I have a standard set of issue tickets to where when you go to any repo without doing any extra work, when I go to any repo that gets created under Modern Apps Ninja, like I'll show you here. Let's just go to this vCsphere Tanzu we just set up. And now if I go to issue ticket and I go create a new issue, you can see that I have these are custom templates, and you can do things like have so that way, like I can have it set up to where when somebody creates a template that it will automatically append some certain set of labels, which is kind of nice because uh, otherwise you have to have somebody manually go in and add all the labels. And then generally there's usually a good idea to have a triage process where somebody is manually looking on things when there's a new, and may in any case want to have some labels manually added, but it helps tremendously to have several of these reports. So when somebody opens up a ticket, they can get, you can have the template have a set of instructions already in it. And so it makes it clear to the user. And then when that user submits that ticket, they will, it'll automatically have some of an appropriate label that'll help you to either take automation actions or just more clearly identify what the issue is and filter through your issue tickets. And so one of the reasons why I don't have anything other than a default set of labels in here yet is I was have an action item for myself to make a global label repository. It doesn't make sense to go in, especially for us. We have a lot of repos, and every new course will be a new repo. It doesn't make sense to go into each one and manually add the labels. So I think there's really two approaches that could be taken. Right, one is that you could have in a particular repo that you use as a template, like a course template, you could define labels and issue tickets in that template. So that way, whenever people build a new repo based on that template, that template itself will carry the label values. But I think in particular with labels, it's a very good practice to have a global set of labels and then potentially append those in cases where you might need only a locally specific label. But labels are ones that I think are really good to try to keep consistent across an environment. And there's a lot of big software projects like Kubernetes is huge, right? So many different sub projects within Kubernetes, and they use a common set of labels. And so when I go to, was it the homepage before? Let's go back to ModernApps Ninja. We're back. So no, further back. I'll just click on it here. So the new homepage, this ModernApps Ninja GitHub IO. When I go into the issues here, these are the I decided rather there's been various repos that I've done kind of my own labels on, but I think it's good if there's a project that's already mature and already out there that already has a robust set of labelings. It's really good to follow from that advice. We're also, I think it's good. One of our goals is not just to teach people how to operate on this repo, but to try to leverage as many best practices as we can, and also to help prepare people to where if they want to go and participate in open source projects, we really want to encourage and reward people for making contributions to any open source project as well. And so the labels that I have in here are actually derived as a subset of the Kubernetes labels that they have in the Kubernetes community. So they have a ton of different labels in Kubernetes, and so I didn't want to use all of them. A lot of them are not probably ever going to be relevant to us, and we will probably deviate some since the things that we do in this community aren't exactly the same. But I think in general, wherever there is crossover, we can get a lot of benefit from doing things in a similar way, and maybe gain from some of the maturity and experience that they've had for all the time and expertise that's been devoted to that project. And so I think that's a good thing to start off with now. See if there's a simple way to identify labels centrally. And I may go ahead and turn off the recording now because I'm going to get into a point where I'm doing some Google searches for things that I don't know what to do, and that may not be informative in a recording, unless somebody thinks, "Hey, Mr. Fantastic, are you there? I see your face. I'm not sure if you're able to, if you're listening right now, but thought I'd say hi." Let's see. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.